Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Miller. I'm fortunate enough to be Director of Guidance for the district. You might have heard me on numerous connected roles throughout the years to explain myself. Here's the face that goes with that, the voice that's really impressive. We appreciate you coming tonight. So this is kind of going to be a split kind of session here down the line. So we're going to have about an hour total. We have Ms. Corrigan, who's one of our councilors leads, who's going to kind of walk through just to kind of introduce the process to you. For South Hills Juniors, about what we should start to think about for how and getting ready for the application process and things like that. And then she'll speak for about 20-25 minutes or so, and then we have Tom Ellers, who's from Method Test Prep, who kind of go in a little bit to the SAT and ACT. There's a lot of changes with that, a lot of things that we need to know. Digital versions, some schools going to test optional, things like that. So I'm going to kind of spend the second half of this going into what you share on that.
Is your mic on? I'm sorry, is the mic on? Yeah, it's
How's that?
Yeah.
So if you didn't hear me, I apologize. We're going to do kind of a split thing this morning. One of our council's leads will go through some kind of basics that you start to think about the college application process. And then the second half of this, Mr. Ellers from that test prep will go through some things you should know about SATs and ACTs, and kind of some things that we should start looking at for that and get ready for us to begin to apply that. And then we'll have some time, about 10 to 15 minutes at the end. If anybody has any questions, by all means, we would encourage you to do that. Okay? So again, thank you for coming tonight. We have Mr. Sophia, who's one of the school councils at the 16 North. All right, so thank you again. Without further ado, here's Ms. Carter.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming out. So yes, we're going to be presenting about the college admissions process, which generally starts during junior year. I understand there might be parents of 10th graders here. 10th grade is important to do well academically and be involved in activities and take your PSAT. I'm going to mostly talk about what's happening during junior year. So if you are a 10th grader, just know this is something that's coming, down the road. Okay. I don't have a clicker. So these are just the general broad topics that we're going to discuss today. Admissions criteria for colleges, not the honors program that we've been working with all our students to use, and we want them to use it more and more. We'll briefly touch on some of the great aspects to that program. We'll touch on financial aid. Financial aid is a pretty deep topic. We have another financial aid night every fall typically been. So I would encourage you to attend that as well, but we'll touch on it. And then Mr. Alex will talk to us about SATs, and then we'll ask questions. Okay. So with regard to what do I have to do to get my child into college, the very first and most important part of the process is for your child to do well academically, to take challenging courses, to take the most challenging courses that they can handle in high school. If you've been in honors and you think you can handle AP and get decent grades in there, try to bump up a level. The thing that college admissions officers are going to look at longest and most closely is the high school transcript. They are going to see how many honors courses your child took, how many AP courses. They get a school profile from us that indicates how many honors and AP courses are available to your child. They ask the counselor to report on how your child compares to their peers in regard to the rigor of your academic program. It's something that your child has the most control over in choosing their courses and trying to challenge themselves and doing the best they can in school. And it's the most important part of the admissions process. Obviously, we're going to be talking about testing. Testing is also another important process. I'm not going to go into detail about that right now, but we will. And just a general timeline. So if you're a parent of a junior, you really should be having the child take SAT soon. Again, we'll talk about that, but the spring of this year is very much about SATs and ACTs. It's ideal to go into the summer already having some scores under your belt to have an idea of where you're prepared for other students or applying to different schools. With regard to other aspects of the process, this is an idea for your parent or junior to do college visits, especially over April break because they're still in session and you can go on and see campuses in person. You can see students who are there and get a feel for whether the school feels like a good fit, you get a feel for how far away the school is and all of that. So that's another key component of junior year. Fall and senior year is primarily about applying to college. We have another presentation for seniors and parents of seniors in the fall. And just to be clear, kids are applying, well, I still have some students who are applying right now. They don't have to decide what college they're going to until May 1 of their senior year. So a lot of juniors start to panic and feel like everything's happening so fast and everything needs to be decided right now. No, you need to figure out what kind of colleges you might want to apply to. You need to have an idea of where you're going to apply in the fall, and you have time to make your decision when you start to think back about where you're going. What is the best place to research colleges? Well, first of all, every parent of a junior is invited to have a junior parent meeting with their guidance counselor. They can call the guidance office now to schedule that meeting. Because it's a very individualized conversation. Some people want to stay local, some people want to go far away, some people are concerned for many people is the cost. Some people say sky's the limit. So it really kind of depends on your individual situation. So your guidance is a great place to start. We have wonderful resources on our website. We have something called the Junior College Handbook, which is like a 20 to 30 page document that goes into pretty detailed about all of the admissions information you might need. We also publicize a timeline that has many deadlines to be aware of. In general, with regard to applying to colleges, many colleges have rolling admissions, meaning that there is no set deadline, and some kids are going to be applying early. November 1, November 15. Again, I'm still processing applications now for January 15 students, and there's even February deadlines, and even beyond that. And scholarships, we do talk about that also. It's on our website as well, with regard to financial aid, again, with the financial aid presentation. Okay, so too far. There we go. So I did talk a lot about the transcript. SAT scores are another big criteria that are used with regard to college admissions. That piece has been a little different lately. We'll get into that, because so many schools have been test optional the last couple of years, but some schools are reincorporating it. Your resume, how involved have you been in your high school? And not that you just need to have a very long list of everything you've done. How deep are those involvements? Are you someone who's on sports, which are very time-consuming, or is someone who's taking on a leadership role in club activity? This is something that college admissions officers are going to look at, in addition to teacher letter recommendation, your counselor's going to write your child letter recommendation. For many colleges, the essay is a very big component, especially more competitive colleges, because that can help differentiate your child from so many other strong applicants. Some colleges still have an issue, it's not as common, but it's much more competitive colleges than that. Again, this is a very individualized conversation. Anytime we have a parent coming to their parent meeting, we usually start off by asking questions to get an idea of what it is that you and your family are looking for in college experience. Some people very much want to go away to college, live in the dorm, have that away college independence, and that's very important to them, and it's more important to them than a school having a particular program. These are all, like I said, very individualized. Let's say you do want to go away, some people are willing to go very, very far away, some people would much rather be closer to home. There's also college search tools, college board has a great college search tool where you can search by zip code, you can see like all the schools that are within a certain radius in a certain area. And a lot of our students will look at the state system because it's very affordable. And I'll have some students who will exclusively apply to state schools, and we'll help you with that process as well. Sorry. So with regard to Naviance, these are the links, again, the links are on our website. We're meeting with students right now for scheduling, we're reconnecting them with Naviance as we're doing that, because students use it quite a bit when they're a senior and a little bit as a junior. We'd like younger students to start using the program more. You can use it for career interest inventories, and there's a lot of college research you can do about various schools. You can do a college search engine on there and say, I want all the schools that offer civil engineering in the state of Pennsylvania, and I want the schools that are medium size. And it'll give you a list of options, same with College Board and other search engines out there. The next page, I think, will show you that if you can put a list of schools, that is super tiny, I apologize, but you can look at a list of schools and compare the admissions criteria. So it's super small, but if you can see, there are some red X's and some green checks. This has your child's information in there, what their PSAT score was, and what their grades were. And the green checks mean that you were doing better than the average student, like teacher who applied to that school. And the X is saying your scores are below the average SAGE student for school. So this is individualized to SAGE students. And I'll show you the next screen to give you a better, oh, this is a close-up. This is the screen that I tend to use the most when I'm using Naviance. It's called Scattergrams. We have about now 15 to 17 years worth of data of SAGE kids at the end of their senior year. We do a meeting with every single senior, and we gather information about which schools they got into and which schools they didn't get into. And we obviously have their SAT scores, and we have their grades. So if you look at this graph, and again, I know it's tiny, but at the bottom, it has the SAT scores, and on the other axis, I forget which is X and Y, it has the GPAs. And those two lines show the averages. So I can't see this too closely, but it looks like the average SAT is above 1,300. I'd say about 1,350. And the average GPA is around a 93, 94. Okay, so you can see eventually your child will pop up on that graph as like a little circle. And if your circle is surrounded by lots of green checks, you can get an idea right away that this school is what we call a target school. You're very much in range to get in there. If your circle is surrounded by a lot of red X's, those are kids who did not get in there. This would very much be a reach school. You could still apply there and just see, but it really should come up with some other options. The blue guys are kids who will leave. So this is really, really valuable information. There it is. Oh, I was close. 1330 and 93. So with regard to financial aid, I'm sure many people have heard that, the sticker price of college is not what you're ultimately going to pay at college, and that's often the case. Unless you're talking about the state schools, a lot of times state schools, because their prices are reduced to begin with, you may end up paying full price. With regard to the SUNY system, they have a program called the Excel Senior Scholarship Program. If your family makes $125,000 or less, it's free tuition to those schools. Tuition 6,500 left. But then you start to pay more. Private schools can run the gamut. They can be 30,000, 40,000. They can be 65, 75,000. And what the family will do is complete a FAFSA, a free application for federal student aid. The earliest you can fill that out is October 1 of your child's senior year, and it uses the tax info from the full year before. We always encourage you to fill it out as early as possible. The reason being is that money can dry up a little bit later on in the admissions process. So in the admissions season. Some private colleges require an additional form called the CSS profile, and that is the website you'll go to. Basically, the government takes these forms to determine how much they think your family can afford for college, and then colleges will come up with a financial package for your family. And in theory, they will try to make up the difference between what your family can afford and what the college costs. In many cases, there's gaps between those differences. So it's important to know about scholarships, merit scholarships. Many schools will give out scholarships based on grades, based on SATs. Some schools will only have money based on family need, like the more competitive schools like Harvard, they're not giving out higher scholarships because you need to have amazing grades just to get in there. So again, attend the financial aid night for more details. That's just a brief overview. This is, again, just a little more detail, but I kind of touched on a lot of this already. Need-based aid versus merit-based aid. Grants, that's again free money that you don't need to repay, so if you see that on your financial package, that's a good thing. Loans you need to repay. Subsidized loans are ones that, while you're in college, the government pays for your interest. Okay, I did touch on this earlier, but we'll say, a little bit of the timeline. Attending the junior meeting with regard to scheduling. We met many of our juniors back in December, most of them back in December, you guys at the same timeline. And, they did an initial selection of their courses for next year. It's very important that they take a strong senior year program. In years past, it used to be, senior year, let's take a little break. I've been working so hard throughout high school. That's going to change a little bit. Colleges want to see a strong senior program. They want to see the major subjects on there. They want to see honors AP classes. Some of the more competitive colleges are going to look for quarter two report cards to see, is the student still maintaining that strong level of academic scholarship through their senior year. So that part is a really important part of the process. Conducting a college search. Again, this is where that equipment with your counselor can be very helpful. There are a ton of websites and college search engines out there. I find that when students sometimes dive into that, they can be a little too specific in what they search for, and they eliminate a bunch of schools that should have been good options. So that's where your counselor and their knowledge and expertise can help you to come up with a good list of schools and what they should. We'll talk about the SATs in a bit. And touring the campuses, I can't emphasize enough how important that is. I understand for arts and family trips, even if you can see local colleges, just to get a sense, see a St. Joe's, see a Farmingdale, see a Stony Brook, see a Hofstra, they all have different feels to them. If you visit Stony Brook and you say, oh my goodness, this is way too big for me, then maybe you don't want to visit Buffalo or another big school that's at the state. Give you like an idea of what you might like or not like. Here's a couple websites. Again, we have a Google Classroom for 10th and 11th graders. We have our teaching website at East and at York that has a lot of this information. We also have that junior handbook that has a lot of this information. We'll post this to our website as well, notification. But these are helpful websites.
All right. All right. Everybody's favorite topic, SAT and ACT prep. So thanks everyone for coming out. I know we all have a million things to do. I am going to talk quickly because I have a lot to share. But hopefully I'm not speaking too quickly. People do tend to take a lot of notes when I present. So if you have a piece of paper, pen, and pencil, if not, just a phone. So let's jump right in. So, next slide, Mike. So just a little bit about me. I grew up right here on Long Island. I went to Bayshore High School. So played St. Jim in every single soccer, football, basketball, baseball. So very familiar with the St. Jim community. I've been here a million times. I've actually presented here for many years now. I went from Bayshore to Princeton University. I did the teacher preparation program there. And I came back to Long Island. My parents spent their whole careers as gym teachers. And they said, we have a lot of students here not doing well in SAT, maybe you can help them. That was back in 1998. They come through the math on that. That's how long I've been doing this. And so I started tutoring students, mainly athletes. They were gym teachers at West Allen High School. Anybody here go to West Allen? Mr. and Mrs. Sailors? I spent a lot of time at West Allen High School, a lot of good memories. So I started tutoring a lot of athletes, and I saw right away that students who take this test without any strategies, without any techniques, they were scoring so far below their potential. And they were saying things like, I'm a bad test taker. And I would say, you're not a bad test taker, you don't have any strategies. They didn't know how to approach the timing aspect of the test. In many cases, the students didn't even know what they were being tested on. And so at the end of the hour, the student was saying, thank you. The parent was saying, thank you. The parent was saying, would you like a cheesy cup of Parmesan Hero? I was like, okay. You know, and once they started offering me chocolate chip cookies, I said, that's it. I'm doing this all day, every day. And that's what I did for 12 years. I just tutored all day, every day. And I could see students were raising their scores very significantly. And it proved to me that it's not that these tests are above kids' ability level. A lot of students just don't, they don't have the strategy. So anyway, so the business is kind of growing from there. We have a web-based program that Sachem provides to all students. It's through Castle Learning. So all a Sachem student needs to do is log into their Castle Learning account, and on the left-hand side menu, the program is named Methodize. You click on Methodize, and it takes you through the entire, you learn every trick, every strategy, every technique. Students who use Methodize increase their SAT score to 150 points, and their ACT score 3 points. So the program is highly, highly effective. We know it works. And again, Sachem is providing my program to every high school student. So it costs the family nothing, and as far as it just costs the students a little bit of time. But I've broken all the work into 5 and 10 minute chunks. See, I'm very realistic. I'm not asking students to go on for hours on end. Go on for 5 or 10 minutes. Learn a strategy, learn a technique. The reason why the program is so effective, it's all audio and video, right? None of us learn best by just reading words off the screen. So on my Methodized program, every lesson segment has an audio component. Students listen to the teacher. Then they're presented with a practice problem, because of course we all learn by doing. And then once they try a problem, they're presented with a video explanation and a written explanation, where the teacher is saying, if you ever see a question like this is how you handle it every time. These are the underlying strategies, these are the underlying techniques. We have over 4,500 questions in the program. I always smile when I say that, because I'm not expecting most students to go through all 4,500. But here's a really important fact that you may want to jot down. Again, if you have something to write or just into your phone. Every question a student gets right on the SAT is a 10-point increase on their score. Think about that for a second. If a student gets just 5 more math questions, 5 more grammar questions, and 5 more reading questions, that represents a 150-point improvement on their score. And when I share that with students, you can see their attitudes start to change. They become more confident, they become more motivated, they become more optimistic. Because deep down inside, they know they can do that. They know they can get 5 more math, 5 more grammar, 5 more reading. So I'm very passionate that every single Sachem student can do that. I'm very confident. And again, students can use my Methodized program right through their Castle Learning account. Okay, so, and I kind of, yeah, thanks, Mike. This is perfect, right? Go back one. I want you all to know that when I share this information tonight, it's as a parent myself. So I'm not sitting here and you guys are all saying, this guy has no clue what it's like to be a parent. This picture's a little outdated. Our twins are in 8th grade now, so I'm only a few years behind you all. Next slide, Mike. So there's my daughter, Julia, my wife, Allison, who's a speech pathologist in New York City Board of Ed. So as I share information tonight, I want you all to know that it's information that we struggle with as parents too, and trying to make sure that every single Sachem student can reach their potential, and they can with what I'm going to share. So, okay, next slide. Our goal tonight is very straightforward. I want to help every one of you all use higher SAT and ACT scores to get accepted to more colleges. Nobody wants to apply to 9 colleges and only get accepted to 2. right? I want everyone to have more options. And when you score higher in the SAT and ACT, you increase your chances. And then, of course, the second thing, as Wendy mentioned, is colleges do base their academic merit aid packages and their scholarship packages partly based on test scores, right? Many colleges do. So when you have higher SAT and ACT scores, which again, I'm very confident every single student can do, you'll get a larger merit aid package. As Wendy shared, it's a little complicated. You get accepted to a school, and then have a sheet of paper, and there's all these different things on the paper: grants, loans, scholarships, and the colleges can call whatever they want. They can come up with those numbers however they want. They want the process to be opaque. But the bottom line is, when a student has higher test scores, the college wants to entice that student to come. And how are they going to entice that student to come? With a bigger merit aid package, right? And so that's our goal. Those are our goals tonight. They're very achievable goals, very realistic goals, and they're obviously very important goals. Okay, next slide. So yeah, if you only remember one thing, these tests are highly predictable. They literally test students on the same information over and over again. Because these tests are so predictable, it makes sense to prepare for them. If they were not predictable, it would have made sense to prepare. But we know exactly what's going to be on every SAT and ACT. They're highly repetitive tests. So I already shared this slide. It's such an important slide. You get one more question correct, that's a 10-point increase on your score. ACT, same thing. You get one more question correct, that's another point on that part of your ACT. So you can make an enormous difference with just a few more questions. I tell people, on Methodize, there's 4,500 questions. If your son or daughter just does 10 questions, or 20 questions, or 30 questions, that could be a 200-point increase in their score just from watching a few videos and practicing a few questions. Okay, next slide. So just a couple of data points. National average on the ACT, the maximum score is a 36. The national average is a 20, just to give everybody a sense of the scale. So what's a good score? Anything above a 20 is above average. For the SAT, maximum score is a 1600. The national average is a 1060. So anything above a 1060 is above average. And again, what's a good score, good is a relative term, what you want to do is Google some of the colleges you're interested in, see what the average scores are, and of course you want to score at least the average and higher if possible. Okay, next slide. So, what would I do if I had an 11th grader? Again, my twins are in 8th grade. What would I do if I was in 11th grade? So, next slide. So, the point of this slide is there are plenty of opportunities to take the SAT and ACT. These are the ACT test dates for this school year. It's nice that the ACT is given 7 times throughout the year. And next slide, Mike, thank you. And then SAT, same thing, 7 times throughout the year. Let me see a show of hands. How many parents of 11th graders and 11th graders? Okay, and then 10th grade parents and 10th graders? Perfect. So again, I want to just get a sense of the breakdown. So go ahead, Mike, to the next slide. So this slide is very important. Many of you will want to take a screenshot of this slide. There are certain SATs and ACTs that have a massive advantage. And that is the College Board allows you to pay an extra $20 and they will show you the questions you got wrong. So you can actually learn from your mistakes. And these are the test dates for the SAT and ACTs where you can pay the extra $20 and you can see what you're doing wrong and learn from your mistakes. And it is literally a tragedy to me that I've been doing this now for 24 years. 99% of parents and families I talk to were not aware of this service. So the way I like to describe it is, imagine taking a 4-hour exam, getting a score you're not completely satisfied with, no one tells you what you did wrong, and then somebody says, go take that exam again. That's absurd. Why would I take the test again when I don't know what I did wrong the first time? The good news is there's a better way. And the better way is to focus on these tests. So, yes.
Can you explain what the difference between the SAT and the ACT? Do they have to take both of them,
Great question, and I was gonna go over that, but I'm glad you asked because it's good. What is the difference between the SAT and ACT? So, college, every college in the country accepts either test. Every college says, give us your SAT or your ACT, we really don't care, whichever you do better. So colleges are giving students 2 chances to be successful. You might as well take advantage of both chances. My son and my daughter are gonna take each test once, because I want them to have both chances. And some students will score a little higher on the SAT, some will score a little higher on the ACT. You asked about the differences. A primary difference is on the SAT, each test has 4 sections. But on the SAT, 2 of the 4 sections are math sections. On the ACT, only 1 of the 4 sections is a math section. Right, so that's a massive difference. If a student's stronger in math and they're in verbal, they may feel more comfortable with the SAT. Because 50% of their score is going to come down to their math ability. If a student's stronger in English than they are in math, they may feel more comfortable with the ACT. Because 3 of the 4 sections of the ACT really come down to your reading comprehension. And then the last major difference, one other major difference I need to share, on the ACT you get less time per question. So you have to work very quickly on the ACT. So for students who are a little bit more sort of methodical thinkers, take a little bit more time, they may feel more comfortable with the SAT. Now the ACT, the questions are a little bit more straightforward, so it makes sense that you have less time per question, but you have to move very quickly on the ACT. So, great question. So here's a really simple plan for junior year, especially for juniors right now. I would be focusing on the March and May SATs. When you register for the March SAT, you check the box, question and answer service, and 2.5 weeks after the test, not only do they send you back your score, they show you every question, whether you had it right or wrong, and then the correct answer. And so that is the most valuable tool for improving your score. When I am privately tutoring a student, my favorite thing to do is to go through a question and answer service. Because in 1 hour, we get through 10 or 11 questions. And at the end of that hour, I can say to the student, if you just get those 10 correct, your score just went up by 100 points. Right? So just an incredibly valuable tool. The ACT, they call theirs a TIR, it stands for Test Information Release. And that's offered on the December, April, and June. So a smart plan is to take March, April, and then take one of the tests one more time. Okay, good. I wanted to check how much time we have. Okay, 10th graders. So go ahead to the next slide, Mike. So the key thing here, right, is the SAT is moving to a digital format, okay? And it's a very big change. So I'm going to try to describe it as concisely as possible. So, yeah, take a picture of this slide if you'd like. What this slide is showing is this fall, the PSAT will be digital. So this October, current 10th graders as 11th graders will be taking the PSAT on a computer, not the paper and pencil test that it's always been. And then the following spring, the SAT will be digital. So this is the one year that we have to have a little bit of a tricky conversation just with 10th grade families, right? So 11th grade families, this does not apply. You're not going to be taking the digital SAT. Current 10th graders. So here's the strategy for current 10th graders. Very simple. You could focus on the current SAT, the paper and pencil SAT. Because that's going to be given in October, November, and December. So in October, November, and December of your junior year, you can still take the paper and pencil version of the SAT. And one massive advantage to doing that, October is the last time the College Board is going to offer the question and answer service. October is the last time that you can take the SAT and you can see what you're doing wrong and easily learn from your mistakes. The College Board is not going to offer that on the digital SAT. So there would be many high-achieving juniors, many of your more motivated juniors who are going to take the SAT in October so they can see what they're doing wrong and use that information and take the SAT in either November or December or both. And the goal is they'll be done with it. They're not going to bother with the digital SAT. They're going to finish in the fall of their junior year. Now that's a strategy, again, more for high achieving students who have taken difficult classes and want to take advantage of that October question and answer service. So those students might take the SAT in October and then also take the PSAT in October because they want to have a shot at that National Merit Scholarship and they want to just see what the digital PSAT is like, right? So that's strategy number one. Strategy number two is just to wait until the spring of junior year and just focus on the digital SAT. And I think that's a good strategy as well. I think that's a better strategy for a student who's taking Algebra 2 as an 11th grader. Probably want to wait until the spring and just focus on the digital SAT. I do want to share a couple of large advantages to the digital SAT. So one huge advantage of the digital over the paper and pencil version is the digital SAT is going to be much shorter, right? So right now, current SAT is 3 hours of working time. The digital SAT is about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that's a significant difference. And the reason the College Board is doing that, the College Board is responding to criticism that the SAT is too long. Right, that it's just a test of stamina and endurance, and it's just too grueling. So they designed a shorter test. So it's not so much about stamina and endurance, it's about what you know. So that's one big advantage, yes.
Are they going to keep the scoring the same?
Great question. The answer is, so the question is, are they going to keep the scoring the same? And the answer is yes. And I know it's a little bit more, how can it really be compatible, right, when it's a much shorter test? Great question. Some of the questions on this digital SAT are going to be very difficult, right? And also they're going to play with the curve. So you may need to get a higher percentage of questions correct to get a comparable score because it's a shorter test. So the answer is yes, they're going to keep the scoring the same, and the College Board has done hundreds of pilots of the digital SAT. So now statistically, they've got it down where they know that a 1300 on the digital exam is comparable to a 1300 on the paper exam. So they've been doing a lot of testing. Another large advantage to the digital SAT, the College Board is going to give students more time per question. So not only is it a shorter test, but students are given more time per question. And again, the College Board is responding to criticism that the students, they just don't have enough time to finish the question. It's not that the questions are too hard for students, it's that they don't have enough time to finish them. So they're giving students more time per question, which I think is a big change. I think students have a little bit more time to think and demonstrate what they know. A third advantage, I shouldn't say advantage, but something else nice about the digital SAT, College Board is promising you're going to get your scores back within a couple of days, which is nice. You take a big test, you want to know how you do. Right now, it's only 2.5 weeks, so it's not that bad. But of course, when you get a test, you get the score back in a couple of days, that's even better. So those are a couple of advantages. Now, again, let me just see a show of hands, 10th grade parents and 10th graders. Okay, so for all of you with your hands up, there's a third strategy, right? And that is to just focus on the ACT. A lot of families are going to say, we're just going to focus on the ACT because it's a known quantity. It's not changing. And so we're just going to use that test when we're applying to college, and we're just going to focus on it well. And I don't think that's a bad strategy. Okay, so I like everything in life, I try to turn things into a positive. So for 10th graders and 10th grade families, you actually have 3 chances to be successful next year. Okay? Okay, so let me move on. There's probably going to be a couple of questions, but we all, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Okay, so I've shared a lot, and now the question is, okay, Tom, what's a smart next step? How can I improve my score? Because my job is very straightforward. My job is to help the student get the highest possible score in the shortest amount of time. I don't want these tests to dominate your junior and senior year. That's not what it's supposed to be. I want to be very strategic and use our time efficiently. So, next slide. So this is my methodized program that Sachem is providing to all students. This is what the home screen looks like. The students can see how far through the course they are. They have some data points, and there's just a simple green button. The student can just follow the green button. So it's incredibly easy to use. It's incredibly intuitive. Next slide. Every lesson has an audio component. You can see at the top, play audio, and all the lesson segments are bite-sized. So students in 5 minutes can complete a segment, complete an activity, and move on. Of course, you can use Methodize for any device, a phone, a laptop, a tablet, anything. And so the audio is perfect for right on your phone, right? We're all on long car trips with the insanity of youth sports, right? I'm driving my son all over creation. He can just listen to these lesson segments as we're in the car, as he's waiting for a ride. Now, of course, you want to have a bigger screen when you're working on something like a reading comprehension passage. But the point is, students have access to Methodize from any device 24/7. We all like working at our own pace, right? So a lot of students really take to this program because they want to work at their own pace. They want to work at times that are good for them. They can even pick and choose which topics to work on. Okay, so that's a typical lesson. And then next slide. Then, of course, we all learn by doing. So the students are presented with a practice problem. They try it. They get immediate feedback. And then next slide. They're presented with a video explanation and a written explanation. And you can see this video is 1 minute and 14 seconds. So we're keeping the videos as concise as possible. And at the end of that 1 minute and 14 seconds, the student's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And we're saying things like, if you ever see a question like this is how you handle it. Not only do students score much higher on the SAT when they use Methodize, but of course it helps them in school. Because this is exactly the material that kids are doing every day. So students who use this program tell us all the time, it helped them in math class and English class, it's grammar, it's reading comprehension, it's math. So any minute that a student is spending on Methodize is a very good use of their time. All right, next slide. We also have a diagnostic, an SAT eval, and an ACT evaluation, so students can get a quick sense of where they stand. Next slide. Thanks, Mike. We have full-length exams, so students can take full-length practice exams on Methodize, 2 full-length SATs and 2 full-length ACTs. Next slide. We have a vocabulary builder, so students can quickly and efficiently improve their vocabulary. Obviously, having strong vocabulary is important, for the rest of your life. So students can just quiz themselves on words, and the program is keeping a personal word list for every Sachem student. Students can see the words they've missed. Of course, the game is to get words into Word Master. We have a couple of rules around that, but it's cool because some students get into it. They want to get more words into their Words Mastered. Of course, as parents, you can give kids a little reward. Get 100 words in Words Mastered, new Mustang for Christmas. Maybe just like ours. But this is something a student can do right from their phone, just quiz themselves on words. Okay, next slide. So what almost every family says to me is the Methodized program is great. We're using it, we're taking advantage of it, but my son or my daughter also needs some time with a live instructor. And of course, we all get that. So as excited as I am about the Methodized tool, I know that many students also benefit from some structure. So we have a bunch of options for Sachem students. And these flyers here, this is for a class that we're teaching right down the road at Longwood High School. We put some flyers on the table, so as you leave, you can just grab a flyer, and it's got the QR code on there too. It's also got a URL. But, so this is a class for juniors. I wouldn't really recommend sophomores jumping into this class. They could take the same class next year. And we're trying to keep the cost as reasonable as possible. So the class is $375. It starts on January 17th. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays from 7 to 9. So at Longwood High School, January 17th, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if that's a class that you might be interested in, you can grab a flyer on your way out. Now, that's an in-person class, obviously. This QR code is for our live online classes. So same exact class, but just instead of at Longwood High School, students take it right online. Now, there is a massive advantage to our online classes. We record them all. So if the student has to miss a class or two, not a big deal. They can just watch the recording on demand. Okay, obviously with a class at high school, we're not recording that. So if you have to miss a class, then you're out of luck when you miss a class. I wanted to point out, we also have a class at Bayport High School, Bayport Group 1 High School. I know for some of you in Sachem, you might be a little closer to Bayport. Other people might be closer to Longwood High School. And actually, this class at Bayport is a Monday, Wednesday class. So we have a lot of families who say, hey, we would go to Longwood Tuesday, Thursday, but Tuesdays and Thursdays are not great for us. So this is a Monday, Wednesday. This course, and it starts on January 3rd. So we're just trying to offer a lot of different options. So if you're interested in the Bayport class, when we wrap up in a few minutes, you can just come up front and just take a picture of the QR code. Because this one, it was my mistake, we only have one copy of this slide, so I'll leave this right here. So again, we're just trying to offer different options. The last thing is we do a tremendous amount of private tutoring, one-on-one private tutoring. So if a family is interested in private tutoring, I'll leave some cards up here at the front. And you can just give us a call. And obviously private tutoring is nice because you pick the days and times. And private tutoring is obviously individualized and customized. A student can say, I just want to go over, I just want my son or daughter to focus on these questions. Okay, next slide, Mike. Next slide. That's what I just talked about. We are offering a special on private tutoring. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up in a second, but this slide, I'll wrap up after this slide. This slide is really important, everybody. How many questions are there on the 45-minute ACT English section, right? The ACT English is one of the 4 ACT sections. So you guys might all want to have just a guess for fun. So the answer is actually 75. And when I share that, and I've been doing this presentation now for 20 years, every time I share the slide, you're like, what? 75 questions in 45 minutes? Well, here's the good news. They're testing you on the same freaking 11 grammar rules over and over and over again. So, and of course, we have a lesson for every one of those grammar rules on Methodist. So you can learn those fundamental grammar rules. Not only can you answer 75 questions in 45 minutes, it actually doesn't even take that long to answer those questions because the questions are so recognizable. So again, these are tests that you can beat. These are tests you can learn the information very quickly. The other reason I like to pull this slide up is on the SAT, this is very important, on the SAT and ACT, there's no penalty for a wrong answer. There's no reason to leave a question blank. There's no reason to omit a question. If you leave a question blank, you're at a disadvantage. So let's say you're on this section, and in 44 minutes, you get through 65 questions, which is pretty good, right? You're moving pretty quickly. And then at that point, either the clock says there's 1 minute left, or you realize you look at the clock, there's 1 minute left. You have to make sure to stop what you're doing and bubble in an answer for those last 10. Because if you don't bubble in an answer, you're at a disadvantage. It does not only put in B, C, C, whatever, but let's say out of 10 questions, there's only 4 answer choices. So just by putting in the answer, you're going to get 2.5 more questions correct. And it's such a shame to me because when I look at a student's question and answer service, or when I look at their TIR service, I see a whole bunch of questions on blank, a whole bunch of omitted questions, either because the student ran out of time or they just forgot. And so they're giving away points. So again, I almost feel like this is like a public service announcement. I just repeat this every time I do a presentation. Make sure your son or your daughter answers every question on the SAT. Okay, I'll stop there. As I promised, what questions did people have? Yeah?
Question and answer service going away in 2 years?
Yes, so the last time they're offering it is this October. And that's why I recommend it. And now, that's why I recommend 10th graders, maybe think about that test and see if you're wrong. Here's two pieces of good news. The ACT, the TIR service is not going. So on the ACT, you can see the questions you're getting wrong, December, April, and June. Does that make sense? So the ACT, and here's the other good news. With the digital SAT, I should have shared this earlier, it's just a lot to go through. So the College Board has already come out with the app. It's called the Blue Book app, and if you just Google College Board Digital SAT app. I've downloaded it to my computer, very simple to download. They've got 4 full-length practice digital SATs on them. And so you can take a full-length digital SAT and you get a full question and answer service for free. So I've done that. It's incredibly valuable. So that's the good news. Students will have a chance to take 4 full-length exams. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes.
What was the name of that?
Yeah, sorry, it's called the Blue Book. The Blue Book, and the reason why the College Board calls it that, this is the only book that you would ever buy for the SAT. It's the official SAT study guide. It's the 2020 edition. And so for 20 years now, this has been known as like the book to get, the big blue book. So when they had to figure out a name for their app, they just called it the Blue Book app, because they knew people were familiar. So if you just Google official SAT study guide, this will come right up. This is the only book to buy to prepare. Yes, other questions? Yeah.
So with a sophomore and a junior, sophomore and junior, with an SAT, I should be having my sophomore and junior take it, since they'll be able to get the question and answer.
Are you talking about for October?
Yeah.
So your junior, I would have your junior take the March and May SATs this spring and order the question and answer service, so we can see right away what they're doing wrong. And then I would have your 10th grader take the October SAT, so they can see, unless the student maybe is taking out the 2 next year, maybe is not ready to take the SAT in October, and then I would use the Blue Book app, do the 4 full-length practice digital SATs on the Blue Book app, and then take the digital SAT in spring of their junior. Great question. Yep. Yes.
You just mentioned a little difference between the way the digital one is structured, the question, you get it correct or incorrect, and what happens.
You mean the adaptive part?
Yeah.
Sure. So with the digital SAT, the reason they've been able to make it so much shorter, but still be valid, as you brought up earlier, so it's going to be adaptive. What that means is, on the digital SAT, students are going to get a group of questions, a group of reading and writing questions. Based on how they do on that group, they're either going to be routed into a more difficult second section or a less difficult second section. And the point there is, it doesn't make sense to waste the student's time. If the student does really well on that first section, why give them a whole bunch of easy questions? That's a waste of their time. We already know that they're going to get it right. On the other hand, if a student does that first section and doesn't do well, why waste that student's time giving them a whole bunch of difficult questions? Now, of course, to get the highest possible scores, you have to do at least well enough on the first section to be routed into that more difficult second section. So the goal is going to be very simple: do well enough on the first section to get routed into that more difficult second section, and then do the best you can. That will give you the best chance of the highest score. Now, if you don't do well in that first section, and you get routed into an easier section, which is more appropriate, if you do well on that easier second section, you can still get a decent score, you just can't get a top score. And I don't want to get into all the statistics on it and things like that. The bottom line is, this is how you make a test much shorter and have it still be reliable. So at the end of the day, it's a really positive thing. Okay, yes,
So with the digital, will we be able to score on the digital or not?
great question. The answer is, will you be able to super score in the digital? The answer is yes. You can mix and match your best scores. So if you get your best math score the first time you take the SAT, and you get your best verbal score the second time, you can mix and match those two scores. That's called super scoring. And you can even do that between the digital and the paper exams. Yes. Question about that?
Yeah, since COVID, I've been reading that there are some schools, allowing the accepted without ACT or the SAT. How important is this really?
Yep. So question is, heard that, they're not requiring, it's called test optional, right? So many colleges have gone test optional. I guess because we're almost out of time, I know we packed a lot of information, but let me give a really short answer.
I mean, I know you make your money off the test, that there's a whole industry, but what? Is there like a list of schools that are requiring this?
Yeah, yep. So let me try to go very quickly. Okay, so, these are the acceptance rates for some, a bunch of competitive schools. The point here is college has gotten very competitive. You want to do everything in your power to give yourself as many advantages and make your application as strong as possible. So even though a lot of these schools are test optional, having strong test scores is obviously going to give you an advantage and help you stand out. Next slide. So this shows there's just been a tremendous increase in applications. Colleges are overwhelmed by record numbers of applications. So again, you want to do anything you can to stand out. Next slide. So I was on a webinar with some college admissions officers, and they were like, look, anything that a college says is optional, if you're serious about going to college, you do that. Right? So if they say an extra letter of recommendation is optional, you make sure you have an extra letter of recommendation. If they say that there's an optional essay, you write the essay. If they say test scores are optional, you want to submit test scores, and you want them to be as strong as possible. Next slide. So, there seems to be, the data that's come out, the submitter advantage. Next slide. So, I know this is a little small, but these are some schools that have released their data, and you can see it's very consistent. Students who are submitting test scores are being accepted at much higher rates. Often, they're twice as likely to get accepted. So, it's a great question you asked, and all we can go on are the facts and the data. And so colleges want to be opaque, they want to make it confusing, but the bottom line is, it does seem to be true that when you submit strong test scores, it is giving you an advantage. And even if it's not giving you an advantage on acceptance, it's one of the factors they use to determine how much academic merit to award. Yes?
My daughter is a junior. She's taken the SAT a few times, has not taken the ACT, not knowing what college she really wants to go to. Should we be at least taking it once? Should she try?
So the question is, daughter's taken the SAT a couple of times and has not taken the ACT. My recommendation is for her to take it once, for sure. And of course, you can use methodologies, go through some of the lessons and strategies, but that's what I would do.
Thank you.
Okay, so our website is just methodlearning.com. I know I haven't had a chance to answer every question, but if you have a question that wasn't answered, just reach out to us. I'll leave some cards on the front table, so you'll have our number, our contact info. And thank you, Wendy, and thanks everybody for staying so long.
We'll stick around for a couple minutes also if anyone has questions that have to do with our portion of the presentation. Come up or-